I'm Zach Clements. Welcome to Vermont, where I live. As you can see, it's our signature season, a beautiful fall day. In the next few minutes, I'm going to take you on a journey. I'm going to take you to some places where I've been privileged to speak to a whole lot of people about something that's very near and dear to my heart, something I feel very passionate about. I call it inner management. It really concerns something we need to get back to in this country, personal responsibility. By the way, while I'm speaking to you, occasionally you may see me do this on camera and hear the audience, ooh. It's all done in good fun. I call it genuflection. People are kind of reacting to something I'm being tongue-in-cheek about. Well, let's get started. Holy smoke, what are we coming to? Another drive-by shooting. The other day, we read about a fellow, 94-year-old fellow, wants a divorce from his wife that he's been married to for 75 years. Seems they have nothing in common. Pension funds being underfunded. I mean, I'm telling you, friends, it's kind of crazy to talk about these things in this setting, but we really are reaching the dawning of the age of hypocrisy.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, I get so upset with what happens in this life. People say to me, well, Zach, what do you see about making quality in our corporation? How are you going to turn it around? Number one, I want to tell all of you to remember that this is the dawning of the age of hypocrisy. People ask me what's wrong with people. I say, take a look in the mirror. Now, not you people, Price Waterhouse, they're the ones. It's unbelievable. People are cuckoo and they don't even know they're cuckoo. It starts with the way we raise our kids and goes right on up through with everything else we do in life. I love it when people see me at a cocktail party, church supper, bar mitzvah, they say, oh, there's Dr. Clements, he's in education. It used to be anyway. They come over, hey, Dr. Clements, do you mind telling me what in God's name is going on in these schools? Good God, in my day, we never had these problems. I've heard it so often that the minute they start with me, I go into Gregorian chant. The minute they begin, I turn and say, no, in my day when I went to school, we never had problems like we have today. Good Lord, I don't understand. Why, when I went to school, kids could read and write and had to pass their subjects in order to graduate. But have you noticed today they let every nerd out the door? Why, in my day, children were well-behaved and jumped when a teacher spoke, but you hear the filthy language these kids use today? I believe it's because the current teachers, administrators, etc., are no longer respected by children. To which I reply, cow patty, road apple, prairie muffin, buffalo chips, and if you're not from the country, try chicken tata. Give me a break, will you please? I pulled up behind a car the other day that had a bumper sticker, honk if you love Jesus. I'm alone, I see the bumper sticker, I smile, all right, here we go, beep, beep. I hit the horn. Since I was neither in Buffalo, Minnesota, Washington, Miami, the state of Washington, Chicago, the signal I got, I don't think meant we're number one. Did you ever notice how when you confront people in your business life, in your personal lives, when you confront somebody about their inhumane behavior, how they frequently go, oh, it's been just one of those days. I don't know what gets into me. Some mornings I get up, I'm nutsy. Well, I think it's acid rain. Acid rain is making people crazy. No, red meat. No, it's red meat. Smoke, 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 smoke. I've heard every excuse you can ever imagine. The most bizarre one I ever heard. You want to hear it? You want to hear it? Yeah. Okay, it came to me from a woman manager at IBM. She said to me, you know why I think I have a problem sometimes being inhumane? I said, what is it? What's the reason? She said, you won't believe this. I said, tell it to me. She said, pantyhose. I said, excuse me? Are you suggesting pantyhose is making people crazy? You've got to be crazy yourself for saying that. Then I wore them for a week. Let me tell you, she's on to something. All the hair came off my legs. Toenails fell out. Came down with a urologic problem. What's the point I'm making, ladies and gentlemen? What do we need to take a good long look at? What do we need to get back to in this country? Get enlightened leadership? To get our productivity back? To get competitive again? I'm going to tell you. I call it personal responsibility, inner management.
We see this hypocrisy in the way we raise our children, and there are a lot of people who'd like to suggest, oh, it's the school's fault. That's where the problem is in child rearing. Well, let me tell you, there's a lot more to it than schools.
In my neighborhood, you had to go down to the principal at least once a week to show you were a macho or machoette. I remember one time I cut school to go caddying. The truant officer was waiting on me. I knew who tipped him off, Eugene Bender. What a loser. I came off the 18th green counting my $7 or $8 I'd earned for carrying doubles. And there was a truant officer. Young man, get in the car. You're in big trouble, fellow. All the way back to school, he's threatening me with dire predictions of that which would befall me. He thought he was scaring me. Are you kidding? You're talking to an Italian boy. I sat in the back seat of that car practicing ninja. Doing deep breathing. Munching mung beans and garlic cloves. By the time I arrived at school, I was a veritable tower of power. Principal finally summoned me into his office and looked at me with that baleful stare of his. I'd heard it. It was legendary. It was supposed to melt people. And finally, he deigned to speak. Young man, do you realize when you're illegally absent, you cost this district 25 cents in lost state aid? What do you have to say for yourself, eh? I said, look, baby, let me get paid up for next week. Yeah, easy for all you macho types to applaud here. You know what happened to me? Down I went like I was struck with a poleaxe. I don't care whether you came from Berkshire. I don't care whether you came from Rutland. I don't care if you come from Missouri or if you come from Quebec City or Montreal or even Burlington. I submit to you that most of you good people grew up in the kind of home I grew up in. You may have been poor, you may have been rich, you may have been home of a professional or a sharecropper. But you heard something like this, didn't you, every September? My grandfather, an Italian immigrant from Italy, who raised me because my own parents were long gone, he would summon me every September and he would run it down to me as follows. Sonny boy, if for you school ever call it this house, I kill you. Now, I don't ever once remember him saying, I know this is going to damage your ego. I don't ever once remember him saying, you're going to need a support group. Indeed, the old guy, and many of you grew up in farmers' homes or laborers' homes. You remember the size of the hands of those folk. He would reach out with those vice-like hands and he'd grab me by the arm and he'd begin to squeeze. And I remember as I went to my knees, I said, dang, he isn't even mad yet. I mean, you ever go to sleep at night and have your arm go to sleep? You wake up like you got a leather fop. That's how my arm felt when he got done squeezing. I guarantee you the point was made. Now, that may cause you to say, well, obviously that changed him into a goody-goody. Wrong. Friends, I'm a needler. I'm a zinger. But in the old days, you remember you zinged it to a teacher only to a point. You used zing savoir-faire. You zinged until the teacher would turn and say, you know, young man, you better sit down or I might have to go, no, Don't call my house. You need a shoe shine, boss. Let me get them shoes right, baby. Let me get them shoes. Oh, you slick now. Oh, yeah, I shoe shined and whisk-broomed. Did all kinds of things to avoid disaster. And it worked. Never had a call until my senior year. If I live to be 1,000, it will never be forgotten. This is trauma, friends. We're talking trauma here. I'll never forget it. Here it is. I turned my life around. I've become a good guy now. I've gone straight. I'm now on my way to being a solid citizen thanks to my school and a lot of concerned citizens and my teachers. I'm several weeks from graduation when the telephone rings. Ring-a-ding. Unfortunately, my grandfather was home and he answered. "Allo," he said. On the other end, the voice said, "Senora Clementi, this is the school calling." My grandfather said, "Hey, mister, don't you worry, I take care of her." Click. The conversation was so short, I thought surely it's a wrong number. This is a wrong number, gotta be. Next thing you know, the old guy whistled for me. "Sabado, to know everything, ven aquí subito, come over here quickly." I came walking over, 15-year-old guy, "Yeah, Grandpa?" Boom. Down I went like a sack of potatoes. From my prone position, I said, "Grandpa, what'd you do that for?" "I told you school don't call here." I said, "Grandpa, I didn't do nothing wrong in school." "Don't you lie now." Well, I wasn't lying. What a miscarriage of justice. What malicious mendacity. What an egregious falsehood. What calamitous calumny. Determined to right this terrible wrong, I returned to school the next day imbued with righteous indignation, and solicited an audience with the principal. And when I finally beheld his august visage, I spake thusly. "Hey, Dr. Long, what are you doing calling my house, man? You got me in a lot of trouble, you know that? And I didn't even do anything wrong, and you know it." Old Dr. Long got up and began to clean his glasses, and he said, "Well, Zachary, it was supposed to be a surprise, but you've won a full scholarship to Syracuse University. But for some reason, your granddad didn't listen." Well, proud as punch, I got home that night, ran in the house. Grandpa, do you know why the school called?" You see, the old guy suffered from a disease that I called SCP, school call punch. Now, I submit to you today that when educators call a home, and there are a lot of them sitting in this room, you ask them if you don't believe me. When an educator today calls a home, I submit to you, number one, it's a miracle if you can ever find anybody home. And when you do find somebody home, you're lucky you don't wind up as the Ree-me instead of the Ree-more. I know a lot of teachers that call a home. "Hi, I'm calling you about your son, Fred." "Well, I'm glad you called because I want to tell you something." That's when I tell educators, hold the phone out and make faces. I often go around and I teach teachers things to say. Parents don't realize how cuckoo they are sometimes. I mean, every teacher in this room has had it happen to them, particularly primary. You just cut out your 98 duck. It's 11:30 at night. You slip into a hot tub thinking, oh, my goodness. Couple of hours, I'll be back in the building. You begin to luxuriate. The phone starts to ring. Ring-a-ding, ring-a-ding. You hope they'll hang up, but they never do. You get up out of the tub. You go to the phone. "Hello?" On the other end, you hear a voice. "It's Mr. Davis. I want to know what you're doing with Melanie's mittens." "I do not intend to buy any more mittens." I teach teachers to say things like, "I'm eating them." What do you think I do with mittens? When people aren't looking, I sneak over to their cubbies. I take one mitten out of each. I bring them home. I cut them into strips. I boil them with olive oil and an egg and I serve them in place of fajitas. Then when we start cutting, we always cut in the strangest places. How can we cut speech in some schools, special education in other schools, gifted and talented? How come we can allow people to sleep in viaducts like when I was jogging today? How come we have to collect money to have people have a decent Thanksgiving dinner? How come we can't have speech programs? Why do we have to cut strings teachers in public schools? Why do we have to cut gifted and talented programs? Why, I ask you, in a society that has diet dog food? I'm going to tell you why, ladies and gentlemen, and it doesn't, I'm not laying it at the doorstep here. We're talking about enlightened leadership. I'm going to tell you why. It's the same reason why we don't anymore know how to shake hands and say, my word is my bond. How many of you in this room I know would love to do business on the old-fashioned basis? You shake a hand and you say it'll get done, it gets done. You promise somebody a full delivery, you give them a full delivery. You say, I'm going to be there, you're there. But today, the name of the game is get it in triplicate. Make sure you got your lawyer in for other lawyers, and then they wink. Don't worry, I can get you out of it. So where have we come to? Is it any wonder why, my brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, wonderful citizens of Buffalo, why we see what we see? Things have gone absolutely crazy.
You know, sometimes I think people don't realize that the schools reflect the society. And I'm telling you, you take a look at what goes on in our society, in our culture, in North American culture, and you've got to be convinced that things have become nothing short of bizarre. How can it come to pass that a girl is assaulted in the streets and screams for help in a tenement area and nobody steps forward to give the girl a hand? And what do the bystanders say when they were interviewed? Well, yeah, I heard her screaming and everything, but hey, look, you know, man, you go out in the street there, you could get sucked into something, you know? I mean, I don't want to be involved, you know? Hey, I'm sorry for the girl, believe me. When my daughter dead, I'd be very unhappy, but hey, you don't want to get involved, man. Oh, that's a wonderful attitude. That's a wonderful attitude. You know when that attitude breaks down, ladies and gentlemen? When it's your kid. My son got assaulted in Letty Park in the early 70s. And he crawled all the way down Shore Road, bleeding profusely from innumerable breaks in his jaw. People drove by him. And I asked them later why they didn't stop, and they said, hey, I thought he was drunk. I thought he was sick. I don't want nobody sick in my car. I said, what if that were your daughter? Would you have wanted me to stop? People saying good morning to each other. I love to watch this little routine. You've seen this, two people passing each other in the corridor. Good morning, how are you? You're going the other way. Good morning, I'm... You can't answer because they're gone. See, that's because, friends, most people really don't care how you are. We play word games with each other. Phony baloney. Good morning, how are you? Now, they don't do it to me where I work. I've used behavior modification techniques. People come by me with that little phony, good morning, how are you? If they don't wait for an answer, I follow them. Oh, yeah, I go to the men's room, the ladies' room, I'm out here. Now, I know what they say about me in the faculty lounge. The man is insane. The man is insane. I went by one morning, said, how are you? Didn't wait for an answer. I know a guy married to a woman, 35 years, 3 grown children. He comes home there the other night, he says, Muriel, we never had nothing in common. That's right, don't mention the 7 grandchildren. I'm going through a midlife crisis, woman. I agreed with her when she came to me for counseling. The only crisis he's going through is what's he going to do with his horns. I said to her, couldn't you see it coming when he started wearing his shirt open to the navel? When he bought that big gold medallion and started getting his hair permed? When he came home with the pickup truck? Well, what am I going to do? I said to her, buy lots of life insurance on him and send him down to Ramada Inn. Hey, he's not going to last 3 weeks. Is there anything more disgusting than a 55-year-old who combs his hair this way trying to bugaloo with some young woman on the dance floor? You ever see these guys in the men's room? A lot of times I go in the toilet, I see these guys, I say, don't have a heart attack while I'm in here. I ain't giving you no mouth-to-mouth breathing. You go down, I'll step on your chest once. That boy don't start, you're donating your organs. Not long ago, I'm at a high school game. I don't go to high school games anymore because I can't stand it when people start making fun of the student athletes. And this people said to me, come on, Zach, come to this game. You know, the people are all right. I said, hey, if they start criticizing the players, I'm going to be mad. So I get there, and I'm with this kid. Their son was a quarterback. The kid, I admit, let's put it this way, he wasn't great. First time he threw the ball, 7 the other way. Next time he pitched out, 7 the other way. By the third quarter, he'd given the other team 27 points. The crowd grew restive, and finally I heard somebody saying, Smith, you no good blankety blank. Smith, you stink. And I looked over at Mrs. Smith. The tears began to fall down her eyes, and I said to myself, God, why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me? I got to go speak to this big mouth who's doing all the yelling. As I approached this guy, I realized it may have been a mistake. He took up 4 seats. I said, hey, pal, what's your problem? He rose up, blocking the lights from the bank of lights, and said, maybe you want to take it outside. I said, no, I'm sorry, man. Hey, but it didn't end there. That night, my Uncle Rocco went to his house. My Uncle Rocco Pellegrino went to this guy's house, and he said, hey, you got bad manners. You better take these crutches. You're going to need them. Well, we've seen these bizarre behaviors in our homes, our society, our schools. Let me tell you, I go to an awful lot of companies. I do a lot of speaking for major corporations and small businesses alike, and the bizarreness is there as well. The workplace.
Oh. In search of excellence. In search of excellence. Winning at all costs.
Administrative boot camp. We got more gurus running around, friends. You want me to tell you one of the reasons why Japan's kicking our butts in a lot of places? Present company excluded. And I mean that sincerely. I went to a factory the other day in Pennsylvania. They complain a lot, some of these folks. I went to a factory the other day where the workers are allowed to leave at 5. At 4:30, a group began to limber up. Out to the parking lot, I went at exactly 5:01. It's like a lot of people I know who can't wait to get to the end. Collect that retirement, collect that money from the government before they run out, they tell me. I got 2 years to go, and I'll tell you, I can't wait to get out. When anybody says that to me, I say, good, throw yourself under a bus. And then you can go tomorrow. I don't want you killed, just maimed. What I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, is there's an awful lot of people in this country who've forgotten what the name of the game is. You want to be more successful, you want to be more productive, you better get some people who understand that the name of the game is personal responsibility. And my notion on this thing, ladies and gentlemen, is that here we are in a time and age in this great country where more and more people have to give more and more in their jobs, have to increase productivity while increasing quality, have to increase profit margins with less. You tell me what that takes, friends. I'll tell you what it doesn't take. It doesn't take the number of people I meet today. Oh, I don't know. I feel empty, hollow, drained. I swear it's getting worse and worse. I think I'm burning out. I run into 40-year-olds. Oh, I'll tell you, I got 3 or 4 more years ago, and then I qualify, and I'm out of here. What is it, ladies and gentlemen, with the number of people who can tell you right away how upset they are and how angry they are, and I should have gotten, and I demand, and I want, and I got it coming, and I better get it now.
When in reality, more than ever, my friends, we need to stop the world and take a good look inside. The problem, my brothers and sisters, CEOs, spouses, isn't out there very often. Enlightened leadership very often is a matter of in here. It's like in the business world. People talk to me about, well, there doesn't seem to be any loyalty among employees. We should be more like our competitors in the Pacific Rim. What do they have that we don't have? They got a different kind of people, that's what. I don't see Mr. Madonna getting all kinds of respect here. He were in Japan when he walked in, the whole audience would say, when I point to you like that, I want you all to shout in one voice, yes. Are you ready? Madonna! 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 Instead, I know how some of you go, Madonna, shit. Respect for your employer, respect for the person that helps feed your family. Hey, it's almost laughable in contemporary society. They laughed at me years ago when I taught IBM managers a technique that I've taught all over America. It's called group firing. They said, what do you mean group firing? I said, these days, whenever you fire anybody, you got to have a group do it. Now, to show you how this works, here's what I want. When I point to the people in these first 4 rows, when I point to you, I want you to say in one voice, you're fired. Let's rehearse it. You're fired. Okay, how does it work? You're going to fire an employee. You bring him in, and together you say, you're fired. They all scratch their head. Well, what's that all about? That's so that when he comes back with a gun, he has to reload.
We've been talking about all the problems that you see out there. And heck, I could go on talking about it all day. But frankly, I don't need to, because you see it yourselves. In your workplace, in your homes, in your daily living. And there are a lot of people who think that they have a magic bullet, an easy solution. I don't happen to agree with them.
But we keep looking for a guru to write in. We want an answer. It's like these idiots that figure, well, we'll hire a guy from Japan. He'll tell us how to fix it up. So we get together and we hang up a quality sign. We're having a quality circle. Here we go. This is a quality circle. We're quality, man. Nickel dime answers. Another idiot I know in California suggested they have a nude marathon. Everybody will get motivated. I asked if I could have the ice pack concession. I figure we're going to have a lot of black and blue things. You know, necks, heads. Now, the reality is, ladies and gentlemen, that the reason people get screwed up is because they're looking for an easy answer to an almost impossibly complex question. What's the bottom line in the quality search? What's the bottom line in what you people are trying to accomplish? It isn't stuff. It isn't a program. It isn't a thing. It's people. This great land wasn't built on folks standing on the sidelines. Until you walked a mile in your brother's moccasins, shut up. It'd be good advice for all of us. It's easy to point the finger and easy to talk over the coffee clutch. It's another thing to stand up and take the heat and take the barbs and arrows to make a difference. And that's what we need a whole lot of. And that's why a lot of you are successful tonight. Can you imagine when these fellas started that cellular operation in '89? Can you imagine what their wives were saying to them and their husbands? I'm not putting any more money into this. They only have wires in these telephones. How's this thing going to work? And now here they are tonight being recognized for the 2nd year in a row as Rhode Island's fastest growing corporation. I say God bless you, the cellular people, and all you other entrepreneurs who put it on the line. It's awful easy for people to point, wow, boy, they're loaded. Oh, he made a killing. They made a killing. They did. I'll take what I've told you tonight over a lot of the stuff I've run into over the last 10 years. Quality circle. A lot of these are good things. They work for a lot of people. Quality circle, walkabout management. To name just two that always come readily to mind. Give me a break. What person in this room doesn't know about get out of your office and get on the floor or get into the assembly line and see what's going on? Get out there and listen to your employees. Get out there and talk to the customers. You need somebody for $7,000 to come in and tell you that? Oh, no, let's bring in the latest guru and see what he's got to say. Well, I'll tell you what. Try a little personal responsibility with a capital R and P.
I run into people all the time trying to change behaviors to meet the craziness they run into out there. But friends, you can't change behaviors until you change attitudes. The research is very, very clear on this. At last, we're beginning to understand it. You have to change attitudes before you can change behaviors. But how do you change these attitudes? I go on a lot of these talk shows, and these folks are forever asking me, well, what new ideas do you have for attitudinal change? What's current, if you will? Well, I suggest, how about something old?
Don't kill anybody. Do unto others as you'd like to be done unto you. Reach out a helping hand like most of you do in your businesses. Say thank you. Build your personal relationships. Share. Appreciate what we've got. The language of fools, some people tell me. I went to a wedding the other day. The ceremony began, dearly beloved, we are gathered here yet once again. I mean, you go to buy a wedding thing anymore, they say first or second wedding. Or beyond. Well, multiple. Now, I'm not knocking. People sometimes say, you know, I felt you were being unfair to people in the room who have marital problems or divorce. My brothers and sisters, do you see me standing here with a Bible? Do you see a wife with a lot of makeup standing next to me? Why would a girl or a gentleman who are getting married, what would ever possess them? Have you all been to weddings? Do you ever watch the two people when they're that wonderful day, the looks? Do you take your lawful wedding, sickness and death? I do. And you, Fred, do you take Glinda to be your lawful wedded wife, to have in the whole rich and poor, better and worse, sickness and health, you know, all that stuff? I do. And then you go to give your wedding present, and you go to present it, and you hear one or two of them or both say, well, we're going to give it a shot. I don't give them any more money. I take my money back. Give me back my money. You're not practicing with my money. If you're married 3 years, come and see me. I'll give you a big present. What would ever possess a person to say in the most solemn commitment of their life, well, we're going to give it a shot. Well, we'll give it a go. We'll try it. Well, let's talk a little bit about this theory, if you will, of inner management. Let me be candid with you. What I'm really preaching is the notion of personal responsibility. This is where the train has gone off the track. You think about some of the bizarreness we talked about earlier. Where is the problem? Hey, it's do your own thing. It's I got to get mine. You got to be first, win at all cost. If it feels good, I'm going to do it, and screw the other guy. That whole line of thinking. Well, friends, let me tell you, personally responsible people, inner managed people, don't behave that way. Well, you ask me, well, Zach, what are the elements? I'm almost embarrassed to tell you because they're so very basic. But let me tell you, like most things, basicness is the name of the game. The first and key element of an inner managed person is that they have a solid, positive personal philosophy. What do I mean by that? Well, what I mean by that quite simply is you're prepared to handle the vicissitudes of life
even though it's never easy, but you're prepared. A positive personal philosophy is key.
Can all of you look me in the eye and say I'm a positive person? Or have some of you fallen into the great American bitch bag? The great European, I didn't get mine. Did you get up this morning and say, hey, I'm alive for one more day? My legs work, my wheelchair rolls. I had enough to eat and enough to drink. Somebody loves me. I had a nice place to sleep. I got a job. I'm in a situation where when I get sick, somebody takes care of me and I don't have to pay much. I got plane tickets in my pocket. I got crap on my arms and on my ears and on my shoes. Nobody in this room is hungry. It's awful easy to get into the I didn't get mine bag. Not long ago, I had a person slam out of a meeting like this. Bang went the back door. But the word shouted out, forget it, man. Causing the audience to go into buzz mumble. Let's have buzz mumble. I said, don't worry, I'm not embarrassed, even though I was. I saw this person later, and I said, hey, what's your problem? This person said, what's your problem? You come in here, hey, I'm alive one more day. I got a job, should be happy. Hey, man, I give a lot to this company. I'm up to here, you understand me? What are some of your problems? You want me to tell problems? You want to know problems? Hey, I'll give you problems, man. You know we've had 2 computer breakdowns? 2. I mean, that's a lot of extra work. No, I'll tell you what gets me. We had 3 mergers. That's 3 accounts that have gone into one. We haven't had a tax overhaul in a few years. That's a lot of revenue we've lost, you know, in a recession, too. Well, can I give you the Zach Clements cure for some of this garbage? Make yourself a list. All of you in this room, sometime in the next 3 or 4 days, make a list of the 4 or 5 things that are giving you what we call in Italian agita. Hot spot in the stomach. The kind of things that make some of you go home at night and ruin your marriages. Where you walk in the house, hi, honey, says your spouse, and you give it. What's the problem? We had another merger. I'll tell you how you do it, gang. Next time something on your list happens, you go down to your local hospital. You go up to the floor where they have the most serious cases. You look for a sign with a door with a sign on it that says nothing by mouth, family only. You go in that room and you say to the person who's sitting in the overstuffed vinyl chair, excuse me, I won't be long. And you go over to the bed. Let me tell you what you're going to see. Don't look for a black, white, red, or yellow person. You got to look for a gray person. Look for the plastic bags with the tubes coming down and the black and blue marks where the shunts go in. Look for the wispy hair. Look for the white stuff dried over here in the corners. And then you got to lean over this person. Make sure they're awake. And you have to say, hey! You know we had 2 mergers in my partnership? Look at me. I will tell you something. Our computer program broke down 3 times. And what'd you want to tell him, Dave? Yeah. And we haven't had a tax overhaul in 3 years. And when this person sits up and says, God, did they shoot your dog too? You will leave that hospital renewed, revived, reminded. I love people who say to me, well, it's very hard sometimes to maintain an optimism. Bull. It's hard time to maintain optimism. Just count your blessings.
All right, so you've developed a positive personal philosophy. You're now an inner managed person. Wrong. Inner management, ladies and gentlemen, requires indeed that you have this positive personal philosophy, but it is only the beginning. It's not going to gird you against all the difficulties that are going to come along in life. You know and I know. You're going to have trouble at work. Things are going to arise in your home. Things are going to arise with your family. Your health is not going to always be perfect. So a personal positive philosophy can help you a great deal. But what you need to be a kind of a shock absorber along the bumpy road of life is a sense of joy. Joy. the ability to see the whimsy in life.
Well, I agree, but there's nothing funny. I tell you, you can start laughing your butt off from the morning you get up till you get home. These cars that you can hear coming from 9 miles away. I was next to a truck yesterday, the thing was bulging. And then the people are in there. They're in a car that keeps them warm in the winter, cool in the summer. They got a Dixie Cup 7-Eleven. They got donut juice running down their mouth, and they got one of those looks on their face. I used to get mad. Now I laugh because I learned to read lips. Not my mother. That's what they respond when I look at them. Nothing funny? He made a joke about Vermont before. You know one of the good things about living in Vermont? You never get too swell-headed. That's what I meant by you can't become a guru in Vermont. They pick you out 1, 2, 3. They're like the Vermont, the Western New York blue-collar people. They straighten you out real quick. You think you get uppity? Boom, boom. They'll fix you up at a fish rack. An old Vermonter sitting in front of his dilapidated house, rocking back and forth in his rocking chair. Big old New York City Cadillac pulls in. 10 sets of skis on the window. Guy wearing a perm and 3 gold chains. Wife doing her fingernails. 3 kids in the back. We want McDonald's! Electric window goes down. Hey, old timer, you know the way to Route 89? Nope. You know the way to Route 7? Nope. Well, you must know the way to Route 4. Nope. You don't know a heck of a lot, do you? I ain't lost. If you're going home to a teenager tonight, admit it, it's a barrel of monkeys, ain't it? I'll tell you how I feel about it. I'll tell you how I feel about it. If my wife ever told me she was pregnant again, I will throw myself under a bus. I ain't raising no more kids. My youngest, who's now 29 and an outstanding school teacher, we used to call her bring me, buy me, take me, give me. I'll repeat that. Some of you missed it. When she was a teenager, we called her bring me, buy me, take me, give me. I remember once I was in her face about something. Listen, young lady, I'm telling you, you better get it together because I'm out to you. Do you understand me? She blinked and said, you know what? You ought to go to one of your own speeches. Well, I don't know, Zach. It's awful hard to keep. Hey, you want to laugh? Hang around kids. Go chaperone a high school dance. Boy, oh boy, I went to a high school dance not long ago. The chaperone to help out, I had more laughs than a barrel of monkeys. It was a 3-piece band, they told me. They arrived in 9 semis. Each piece in the band had speakers 3 times the size of these screens. They all wore flame-proof suits. They began their first number. I used the word loosely. I could have been stone deaf and I would have known it. The rivets began to fly out of the gym wall. I was standing over with the chaperones holding a Dixie cup of punch. Suddenly, without even trying, out onto the dance floor, I vibrated. I passed couple after couple who said, get down, baby, get down. I vibrated right out of the gym by the cafeteria. When the music ended, I was somewhere down by the shop. Then the real fun began. I went to the men's room, nothing. Nothing that night. Nothing the next morning. Finally, about 1, I passed blood. I went to a urologist. He said, what have you been doing? I said, what do you mean? He said, your kidneys are in your brain. I said, thank goodness, I thought I had sinus. Even buildings can be funny. You people are lucky you work in industry. You work in Park Avenue and places, Fifth Avenue. Good spots. I have to go into a lot of schools in my work. A lot of times I go to use the facilities. For example, to use the John, there's no door. That's embarrassing. People come by, hey, how you doing? All right. Yeah, real good, my man. Yeah, well, I think the Miami Dolphins can go real good this week, yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna see you later. Okay, my man, take care, man.
Now the real fun begins. Oh, man. Who got change for 5?
You need a good laugh. I promise you go to a first grade, you'll howl. Just tell them, oh, I'm just here to visit, to check out the curriculum. Be ready to stuff a hanky in your mouth. Give you a wonderful anecdote. The other day I'm in the school, a little first grader says, Mr. Visitor, come here. I came over and knelt down. What is it, son? You came the wrong day. What do you mean? You should have been here yesterday. Why is that? We had good stuff. What? Sex education. First grader? 6 years old? Yeah. Right, Mike? Yep. Well, what'd you learn? You think I don't know? I didn't say that. We learned good stuff. First, you better avoid intersections. And then you know what? You better buy condominiums. I got it, all right? I got it. Drive careful, buy real estate. I got it. I got that. Okay, my man, give me 5. All right, thank you.
All right, so we've got a positive personal philosophy. We're working on our joy and our sense of humor. What's the third element of the inner managed personality? The third element is one of the most crucial, and that is idealism. Uh-oh, here we go. Pie in the sky, dream the impossible dream. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Uh-oh, I knew this thing was going to get on this level sooner or later. Wrong. Let me tell you something. Idealism gives you the ability to rise above the most difficult of situations. It enables you to be heroic beyond your wildest dreams. Being idealistic, ladies and gentlemen, is what enables all of us to rise to the occasion when we thought we could not ever possibly do it. And I can tell you something, that you can learn about idealism in the most interesting places. Idealism is what can make even the most downtrodden heroic, as I suggested earlier, beyond their wildest dreams. I'd like to share, for example, with those of you out there who say, hey, great, Zach, it's nice to be idealistic, and I've tried, but boy, you lose it real quick. Well, let me tell you something. I'd like to share the messages of a couple of people that I'm, God knows, not making fun of, that I respect and admire, whom I believe can be role models from all of us. Come and meet a couple of very dear friends of mine.
My little friend, Seth. One of the things I do in an airport, not because I'm a do-gooder, but because I like people. My little friend Seth is there. I didn't know him at the time. He has palsy. Please don't laugh. Little guy is sitting in his wheelchair, rocking around, strapped in. The most touching thing about him, he had a Cubs hat on. Chicago Cubs. And it was sideways, like a lot of kids wear their hat. And I walked by him and I said, hey, young man, how you doing? Please don't laugh. How you doing, mister? He replied, how you doing, mister? I said, I'm doing fine, son. How you doing? Good. He said, I like your hat. Go Cubs. Go Cubs, he replied. I said, well, one of these years they're going to go. They're going to win this year. They're going to win this year. I said, I hope so for your sake. And we talked about Ryan Sandberg, and we talked about a couple of the other players. And they called for early boarders, and his mother came over and she said, we have to go now, son. Say goodbye to your visitor. Sir, thank you for taking time to talk to my son. Madam, it was a pleasure. He's a nice boy. Goodbye. Bye, ma'am. Bye, Seth. Bye, mister. She began wheeling him toward the jetway, and the little fellow pulled on her arm, and she bent over, and he whispered something to her. And she turned to me, and she said, my son wants to say something to you. And I said, what is it, Seth? And the little guy replied, you know I'm going to be. You know what I'm going to be? I said, no, what are you going to be? Baseball player. A baseball player. And I said, good for you. Because that's the year, my boy. The Cubs go all the way.
I'm getting ready to leave this special education classroom. As I get ready to go out the door, the teacher says, Dr. Clements, I know you're busy, but could you just take a minute to say hello to that little girl in the back of the room?
the little girl with palsy. I looked back and I saw the child, and I said to the teacher I'd be delighted. As we approached, the teacher said, Joanne, Joanne, aren't we lucky? Our special visitor came to say hello to you, honey. I told him how proud we are of you. Hello, Joanne. Please don't laugh. She replied. And the teacher said, do you know, Dr. Clements, this little girl is learning to type, and she's doing beautifully. Aren't we, honey? The kid replied. I admit it. I made a face. I rolled my eyes. Come on. How can this kid type? She's got no control over her arms. Literally, the little girl was sitting there in this fashion, strapped in so she wouldn't injure herself. I said to myself, how can this kid type? The teacher saw my look and said, no, no, sir. She can type, can't you, honey? Bye. The teacher said, why don't you type something for our visitor and show him how beautifully you're doing, okay? They turned on the electronic typewriter. They put a band around the kid's head with a stick on it. This little girl reared back, the electronic typewriter with the screen lit up. She reared back and lunged forward 5 times. As you get ready to go out into this beautiful Florida afternoon, to relax yourself before your banquet, let me give you something to carry out that this little girl typed. The letters appeared as follows. H, A, P, P, Y.
The intermanaged person. Positive personal philosophy, a sense of joy and humor, a sense of idealism. You know, if you're intermanaged, friends, it enables you to go forward, to become personally responsible, to let your life be guided by higher standards and goals. And you know what? It's contagious. Intermanaged people use their own personal responsibility and bring others along with them. They become role models for others. Businesses that adopt intermanagement get tremendous results. Employees become stakeholders with a vested interest in the company's mission. And intermanagement works just as well in life. It might be in our neighborhood, it might be with a global concern, it might be environmental, it might deal with a child in need. I hope you've enjoyed our look at intermanagement. You know, I owe much of who I am today and that foundation of that philosophy to the life of Fortunato Clementi. And I'd come along the fence with a stick, tick, 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 and I'd look over into our yard, and there'd be my grandfather on his hands and knees, singing. Che bella stagione, che bella sera. How beautiful the spring, how beautiful the night. By and by, he'd come up out of the garden, and he'd seat himself ponderously on a chair, and he would share a philosophy with me that I'd like to share with you tonight. He would say, figlio mi, my son, pigliano buco dolce, mannaggia. Go get me a drink. Che voglio, Pappo? What do you want? E voglio vino, mannaggia. I want wine. And down to our cellar I'd go. Notice I didn't say a basement. We're talking dirt floor. I'd bring up a gallon. He'd always give me a sip. Yeah, you drink, but don't tell her you grandma. Don't tell her. He'd pour himself a wine, which he'd swish around the cheese glass. And he'd light up one of these little Italian cigars called a Denobili. They still make Denobilis, but they aren't the real Denobilis. In the old days, the Nobilis were made with dog do. Hey, you laugh. Let me tell you something. You didn't need rage. You didn't need off. You didn't need 612, one Denobili. No flies, no mosquitoes, no ants, no people. And the old guy would lean back and smoke and sip. And honestly, friends, from my place, standing here, I would look at him and I would think to myself, my God, the guy thinks he's heavy duty. He thinks he's a count or a duke or something. Right about this point, he never failed to say, "Sette qui, sit down here." Well, now, I'm 14 at the time, right? You know how hey, man, what do you want to sit down here for, man? What do you want to sit down here for, man? Fortunately, a voice in my head said even then, "Sit down, stupid. You're going to learn something important, and friends, I'll always be glad I sat. Because indeed I would sit, and my grandfather would say, and I say to you, Figlio mio, capisco che non tiene tutte. You know we have everything. Well, at this point I had all I could do to keep from saying, old man, what do you got? What do you got, old man? Man, you don't even own this house. You don't own this house. You don't own this garden, man. You got long johns on, huh? High top shoes? You look stupid, man. How much you got in that change purse? I'll bet you don't have $10. $10. The day he died, he had $1.19 in change. The St. Christopher medal. How do I know? I counted it. For years, I comforted myself after he passed on to think to myself, well, at least Grandpa never knew what I was thinking. Wrong. Wrong. He knew. And you know how I know he knew, friends? He would say, and I say to each and every one of you, non tena tutte, figlio mio. We have everything, my son. Non tena sol e luna cielo. We have the sun and the moon and the heavens. Più meglio, but the most important thing. Non tena pane, we have bread. Non tena famiglia, we have a family. Non tena amore, we have love. But the most important thing, non tena avete grazia di e non ci ascolta mai. The most important thing, we have life. And don't you ever forget it. Grazie di, thank God. I'm Zach Clements. Thanks for watching.